Hello, this is Domenico with Easynomics, and we're doing another paper 3 practice utilizing average total costs, marginal costs, and total costs. This is a higher level topic within uh, a branch of microeconomics called theory of the firm. This video will be found within a few playlists. One of them will be the supply and demand playlist, introducing competitive market equilibrium and looking at supply, and higher level students are required to know the background behind the marginal cost curve and how it relates to the marginal product and average product curve. So that's part of the playlist here, looking at total product, average product, and marginal product, and how that relates to the average product, marginal product, and average total cost, marginal cost curve. So these will be linked in the video notes below, and you can review that. So let's take a look at how that knowledge can be used in a quantitative sense on a paper 3. So here we have a paper 3 type exam question. It says table 1 shows cost of production in US dollars, US per hour in a cafe. Determine the missing cost figures and insert your answers in table 1. Table 1 has several columns. First column says cups of coffee prepared per hour, 28 cups, 30 cups, 32, 34. Then we have the average total cost, ATC, in US dollars. On the exam, you will not be provided the formula that ATC is equal to total costs divided by the quantity of output. That will not be given to you on an exam, but I've provided to you here to help you remember how these are calculated. Then we have the total costs in US dollars, and then we have the marginal costs, which is the change in total cost divided by the change in the quantity of output. So let's be mindful here that the quantity of output is changing by units of 2. So I'm going to make a note here. Usually on an exam, it'll be just increasing by a unit of 1, but here I'm making it increase by a unit of 2. So it's going up by 2 units. And again, we can see from 30 to 32, we're going up by an additional 2 units, 2 cups of coffee. And from here to here, you can also see we're going up by an additional 2 units of coffee. So this formula is not provided to you. You don't get a formula sheet, so you need to know that. Marginal cost, change in total cost divided by change in quantity. On an exam, they can give you a table where it's not filled in completely. So it asks us here to determine the missing cost figures and insert your answer into table 1. So we got to complete this. So I'm going to ask you to pause the video and think about how you would calculate this and try filling in these blank spaces, and then we'll check your work. So go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, so let's begin making these calculations and then look at the data and see how it relates to our model of the marginal cost and the average total cost. So 28 cups of coffee multiplied, I'll use a different color actually. Let's do this, okay? 28 cups of coffee multiplied by an average cost per coffee of 3.63 equals the total cost of 101.64, okay? Then it gives us the change in the cost of production, 3.33. So I want to remember that 3.33 is a result of the change in the total cost divided by the change in the quantity of output. And the quantity of output is 2. It's going up by 2 units. So it's equal to 2. So I'm trying to figure out what's the change in total cost divided by 2. And that's going to equal, in this case, 3.33. So with basic algebra, we can calculate that the change in total cost is equal to 3.33 times 2, right? We have the 2 here. We're going to carry it over here. And that's going to equal 6.66. Okay? So those are my workings. So I'm going to add 6.66 to this. So 101.64 plus 6.66 will give me the value of here, which is 108.3. Okay, and that is the calculation here. So the change from here to here is 3.33 because that is 108 minus 101.64. Again, just to double check my work, 108.3 minus 101.64 equals 6.66. So that's equal to the change in the total cost, but I have to divide that by 2 because that will be equal to the change in the quantity of output. So that all works out to 3.33. So that's how we got to that answer. Okay, because we have this value here. We use the same color so we really see that. We have a change. 6.66 divided by 2 equals 3.33. Okay, now with this value of 108.3, I can divide that by 30 to get the average. So the total cost is 108.3 divided by 30 cups of coffee. So the average cost per cup of coffee is 3.61. Okay, so we're good so far. Let's continue. So here we have 32 cups. The average cost per cup is 3.61, and that could easily give me the total cost. So 32 times 3.61 equals the total cost of 115.52. And with that, I can figure out the change here. Okay, so I'm going to take 115.52 minus 108. I don't have too much space here, so I'll go ahead and do it down here. So 115.52 minus 108.3 equals 7.22, which is equal to the change in the total cost. I have to divide that by the change in the quantity of output, and the quantity of output is 2, which we see right here, plus 2. Okay, so we're going up by 7.22 divided by 2, and that will give us the answer here. And so that's going to work out to 7.22 divided by 2. It's going to work out to 3.61. So right here, 3.61. What do we notice? Well, as we're looking at this information, 3.33 is less than 3.63. So it's going to pull that average down, which we see it's falling from 3.63 to 3.61, which makes sense. If we go back and review a bit, we can see that the value of the marginal cost curve from A2 to B2 to where they intersect, the data along this curve is less than the average. So it pulls the average down. The average total cost is falling from here to here. Okay, so we see that marginal cost 3.33 less than the average pulls the average down. Now it's going down to 3.61. Then we notice that 3.61, the marginal cost, is equal to the value of the average. So they're intersecting, which is right at this point. Right? We can see here that the marginal cost is equal to the average. 3.61 equal to 3.61. Right? So we're operating right around here. So let's continue. The next data point is 1.22.82. So again, I can divide that by the quantity of output. So 122.82 total cost of producing 34 cups of coffee divided by 34. That'll tell me the average cost per cup. That works out to 3.6123. But typically on the IB, they ask you to provide an answer up to the second decimal value. So we'll just keep it at 3.61 again. Okay, what's the change here? What is the change? 2.82 minus 115.53. That's going to show us that we're going up by a unit of 7.3 divided by 2. 7.3 divided by 2 is 3.65. Let me use a darker color. 3.65. So here, the marginal cost is greater than the average. Marginal cost being greater than the average, so it starts to pull the average up. So we're moving into that portion of the supply curve. Supply is rising, it's providing a value greater than the average, so it starts to pull the average up that we can see from this point onward. Okay, so there we have successfully plugged in those numbers. And again, for this question here, I can show a little bit of my workings if it's not clear. 122.82 minus 115.52 equals 7.3. All right, and that's going to be equal to the change in the total cost divided by the change in the quantity, and that's a value of 2. So 7.3 divided by 2 is 3.65, which is what we have here. Quick review. When the marginal cost is less than the average total cost, it causes the average total cost to be pulled down. So we see that if the marginal cost is less than the average, pulls the average down. If your grade on your next exam is an F, it will pull, let's say, your average of a C down. Here again, we can see the marginal cost, 3.3, is less than the average. It's pulling that average down. Then we get to a point where the marginal cost is equal to the average. You get a C on your next test. Your average is a C. It doesn't change it. Then we get to a point where the marginal cost is greater than the average. So it's going to pull the average total cost curve upward. Here we see that the supply curve here, the value is greater than the average, pulls that average up. And then we should ultimately see, all right, so we see the marginal cost here is greater than the average. We'd ultimately see that average being pulled up if we had more columns of data to generate. But we see that the average is kind of hovering at 3.61. Ultimately, it's going to start to rise above 3.61. Okay. I'll try to create some more practice questions like this to help you prepare for paper 3. If you have any questions, you can comment those questions below. And don't forget to subscribe and to like. Thank you so much.